Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Holidays, whatever you want to say. Just have a good holiday, right? Spend time with family and friends. Enjoy yourself. You know, being by yourself is okay too, Just whatever you can do, just enjoy the holiday. I wanted to make a video because recently I felt very depressed, right? I've wanted to just be by myself. I don't want to do any of the Christmas stuff. I don't want to hang out with family, don't want to hang out with friends, whatever the case may be. But I was talking to someone and they said to me, why? Like, why do you feel this way? And I gave it some thought, and honestly, it's because, just a lot of stuff going on in my life. But then they said, well, then why, let that ruin your experience? Why let that guide your life? Why ruin a holiday for yourself? And although that didn't click with me, and honestly, it didn't make sense to me, because I've been going through some shit. I felt depressed and sad. I don't want to celebrate the holidays. But I did give it some thought, and they're kind of right. Why let this ruin Christmas for me? Why let it bring me down and not enjoy myself? And I kind of just said, fuck it. And I've tried to be happier. I've tried to make myself smile. I've put myself in situations that, I would be happier in, right? And celebrating Christmas itself has recently not been an enjoyable thing for me, ever since the pandemic. I feel like there's a lot of people like that as well, where, you don't enjoy Christmas as much as you once did, right? But honestly, I thought Christmas was going to be pretty shitty for me, but I've kind of enjoyed it for the past week or so. I've hung out with friends, I've hung out with family, I've just enjoyed myself, right? I've stopped thinking about things that hurt me or things that, I know would ruin, Christmas for me. So some of the things I've done, I've decorated, I've baked cookies. Like I said, I hung out with friends. I went to the mall to go Christmas shopping, an old tradition that, I used to do with friends. And then I stopped, but recently I've picked it back up. I've gone to the outside mall to just look at decorations. I've gone and looked at the Christmas trees at the park. All the small companies and big companies and all that stuff in schools will make little Christmas trees for you to go admire and vote on. And then they have like these little venues where you can buy Christmas merch, or you can get hot cocoa, cookies, whatever the case may be. You can take a picture with Santa. At first I went alone and just kind of enjoyed some alone time by myself and stuff like that. But then I went with some of my family, and that was a pretty cool experience too. Christmas has been very difficult for the past few years. I've lost a lot of family and friends, and they always made it enjoyable. And not having them anymore has made it difficult, but not impossible, right? But I kind of wanted to also talk about my favorite Christmas memories. One of which is with my sister who's passed away. She loved Christmas because all of the family was together, right? And that meant that we got to go, to my uncle's and play video games such as Mario Kart and Super Smash Bros. And we also got to eat a whole bunch of junk food. And we listened to Christmas music next to the fireplace. And we opened up presents. And, it was just an enjoyable time. And that's one of my fond memories, is just hanging out with family like that. It just felt so natural. It didn't feel forced, as it kind of does now. But back then it felt natural. It felt, I don't know, just good, right? Um, Another of my favorite memories is one with my ex, sadly. Uh, you know, they their family does this tradition where they go to like this outside park where there's a whole bunch of Christmas decorations, and I've never gone there before. Well, this time I was allowed to. They invited me, um, and it was really magical. You drive your car around this like path through a park, and there's a whole bunch of Christmas decorations. Well, we got into the back of my ex's father's truck, and we had our Christmas outfits on, and we had blankets, and we had this little radio that you can tune into a channel and listen to Christmas music. Um, and it was an enjoyable and memorable moment. But the reason why it's so special to me is because I've grown up in the city. So seeing stars outside at night was never something that I really got to enjoy. Well, since they live in the country, I got to see some stars. And it was taking my attention away from, all the Christmas decorations. And my ex was like, what are you looking at? And I pointed out the stars. And we talked for maybe half an hour, up to an hour, about stars. And my favorite part of the story is when I turned to my left, which is where my ex was sitting, and I kid you not, I can see the prettiest person I've ever seen, lit up from the Christmas lights, the moonlight, and I genuinely thought I saw stars in their eyes. And in that moment, something about it made me enjoy Christmas again. I felt, I guess, the Christmas spirit, right? As cringy and cheesy as that is, I actually started to enjoy Christmas again. Right now, I might not enjoy Christmas as much, but I still enjoy some aspects of it, I enjoy spending time with family and friends, and that's just the best part of it, all right? So, if I had to say anything, I guess my last message would be this. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and Happy Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate, right? If you're like me, where you don't really enjoy Christmas, but, you're in this funk of depression and sadness, I promise it does get better. You can enjoy Christmas, you can enjoy the holidays. It's really up to you whether if you do or don't. I wish I did sooner, I love you. I hope you have a wonderful Christmas, holidays, Hanukkah, whatever, right? And I hope you get whatever you want. I know I'm going to have a good one.